Evening, everyone. Ms. Watson's here, so we can start the meeting. Could I ask you to please stand for a pledge of allegiance? Very much. Great to see a number of folks in the audience tonight. Thanks for coming out. I would like to call the meeting to order and recognize the entire council and mayor are here. A number of staff, our junior council member, thank you very much. We did have executive sessions I'd like to announce formally at 6 o'clock on April 15th, May 1st, 3rd, and 6th to discuss legal matters with our solicitor. And let's hop right into the report section. Kyle, anything from the borough manager?
Just a few quick thank yous to the Casco board and volunteers, as well as the Kennett Run team and our staff, police and public works. It was really popular couple events on Saturday. So thank you to them.
Appreciate it. Mike, anything from your office?
We are tracking there. I know we've had discussions about affordable housing and ADUs. There is state legislation that's been introduced in the committee meetings, the state legislative level. We're keeping an eye on in terms of how that all shakes out.
Thank you very much. Chief Holsworth.
Good evening, Council and Mr. Mayor. I did submit a report packet to you last week. A few things I'd like to highlight out of that. One, I'd like to start with a thank you to the Mushroom Festival, specifically Gina and Gail awarded us a grant donation, which will go towards helping continue our policy management system, Lexipol, as we go into 2025. That was very, very much appreciated. Additionally, I'd like to also point out a commendation note that came from the district attorney's office for a recent case where Detective Sergeant Gravina had run an investigation for a bank robbery that occurred here in 2020. Fast forward 4 years later, we finally got the defendants in front of a jury of their peers and resulted in a guilty verdict for both subjects. Excellent investigation off of a case that really was highly circumstantial when it came down to it. Incredible work from our department, multiple people within our department, the district attorney's office, the Chester County detectives, everybody did a phenomenal job to put this case together. So that was wonderful. As regards to the rest of the report, I don't want to bore you with a lot of details, but if you have any questions out of it, there's a lot of statistical information. Happy to answer anything.
Questions for the chief? Any public questions for the chief while he's here? Short, brief comments? Chief, any updates on the Community Advisory Committee? It sounds like you're putting a lot of energy into that.
Yeah, actually, so I've had about 7 or 8 community members that have reached out that are expressing interest in being a part of it. We're really looking forward to continue with this. We have a couple more stakeholders that we're looking to bring in as well, and really make it a very beneficial asset for our department and our community.
That's great. Thanks for the effort you're putting in that to include the community overall. Is there anyone from Longwood Fire and EMS that would like to share a report, or Kennett Fire Company for that matter? No. Okay. Committees, boards and commissions. Joel, any update on Finance Committee?
Yes, sir. The Finance Committee met on April 18th. We took care of the usual minutes approval from our March 21st meeting, as well as review and approval of bills paid. The tax revenue for this year has begun to roll in. It was mentioned by Nick that it's too soon to tell if residents are taking any advantage of the new payment installment plan. However, and additionally to that, the tax collector will be providing a separate report for the library portion of the tax revenue for this year, since this is the first year that we'll be handling any of that. Otherwise, a review of our year-to-date finances were performed and no major concerns. The next Finance Committee meeting will be next week on May 16th, here at 3 o'clock.
Thank you, Joel. Any questions from the council or anyone in the audience? Next is development. Tim, Kathleen?
They met this month, and the Planning Commission will be presenting on Wednesday evening, regarding their, regarding accessory dwelling units in the borough. So if you want to hear more about that, Matt, on Wednesday night.
Thank you very much. Tim, anything yet? Any questions?
Yes.
Clara Saxton, 120 West Linden Street. May I ask if we can have an interpretation on what the proposed legislation on the state level is and how that's likely to impact us as we consider an ADU change within the borough by Wednesday? Is that possible?
Wish I could. It's not yet finalized at the state level. It's.
I
actually-
recognize it might not be finalized, but we give an idea of what the complexion of the legislation is, can we not?
So very generally, there are a range of options and considerations that the state's looking into, which are everything from providing specific guidelines in terms of how to treat affordable housing and ADUs to completely preempting local zoning and requiring that we permit them.
Thank you.
Environment. Julie? I'm going to hold off a discussion on ADUs at this point because that's what Wednesday's meeting in large part will be part of. So we'll hold that. These are just the committee reports for right now. No, specific to the Planning Commission report by Kathleen, but we're not going to get into an ADU discussion tonight. Okay. That's Wednesday. That's Wednesday. Right, we're not going to get into a discussion right now on planning. On planning, I will. It'll be Wednesday evening. Okay. Thank you. Environment, Julie?
We did not meet this month, so I don't have an update, but hopefully next month.
Public safety, Mayor?
Yep, Public Safety Committee met. We were planning on working on the emergency management planning guide. Unfortunately, we didn't have, Sonny was unable to be there and he is the emergency management coordinator. And some of the things that we needed to do. Also, when we looked at the document, there's more administrative things. So we're going to schedule an administrative meeting to kind of go through that document and see what things need to be, and then we'll bring it back to public safety. So we didn't take any action on that. We spent a little bit of time on two upcoming uses for special event permit applications, which are not on the agenda for tonight. And that was it.
Thank you. Any comments or questions regarding public safety? Community relations, communications?
Sure. COLA met last week, and you'll see two new applications for members of ACOLA tonight to approve. In addition, they're looking at the sister city agreement. You may remember that Juan presented that he was planning to bring that forward. So ACOLA is considering that right now, and we'll have a recommendation for council. Do you remember when, Kyle? June?
Yeah, it'll be for the June meeting. Yep. So COLA's meeting late May. May 28th. Thanks.
It's clear what you say. I don't know if you want to add something.
Go ahead, Juan.
We have two new proposals that the Commission of ACOLA recommend to the board to approve as a commissioners. Is again young people. So we are right now the old generation. We are retired in some way, and we pass the flag to the new generation. Okay, so that's the recommendation from ACOLA. Okay.
Thank you very much. Infrastructure met on April 16th. The primary topic we spoke about was roads, borough roads, and how Rob and Denise and team sort of prioritized based on a survey of the roads, those that are in the worst shape and have a lot of volume on it go to the top of the list in terms of being repaired, replaced. We're trying not to do patches as much as possible in spite of needing a bunch of them this spring. what Rob explained, how they prioritize and what they do, and the difference between the capital budget that the borough sets aside as compared to the liquid fuels budget that comes from the state. The next meeting is focused on sewer and trying to get a handle on where we are and what we have to do over the next short term, but also the next 4 or 5 years in terms of sewer capacity limitations for the borough. Rob, did I miss anything? No. Okay, thank you. And staff support and development.
Staff support and development did not meet this month, but we are going to work on pinning down a time, a standing time for the months going forward. But the personnel manual is on the agenda tonight.
Thank you very much. And the only thing I'll add is what I already said, so I'll keep it brief. Wednesday is very much focused on the planning commission's recommendation in terms of whether the borough council should consider changing, amending its ADU ordinance or not. You're welcome to come out and have that discussion on Wednesday. Please join us. Also, one of the follow-ups from our March meeting in terms of affordability also centered on whether the borough had any property. If you recall, we were going to take a hard look at that, whether the borough had property that it could potentially use for affordable housing. And the short answer to that is no. Potentially, we talked about whether there's any value to the police, current police, soon to be former police land, whether there's any value there. And the council also discussed whether there's any value of a portion of this property to be converted to affordable housing or not. And the answer to that right now is not. Possibly considered in the future, but right now, the priority is to really get this building and the tenants of this building in order so we understand what's going on, what the needs, and whether there's any opportunity to do anything with the land after that's settled in a bit. With that, since we're halfway through the agenda, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented this evening?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Unanimous. I will get it right one of these nights toward the end of the year, hopefully. Discussion items. Police Department, consider acceptance of municipal bid offers for 2 decommissioned police vehicles. Chief, I send that to you?
Yes, sir. So you approved last month the 2 of the vehicles being put up for bid on municipal bid. The auction ran from April 15th until today at around noon. We tried to time it as close to the potential approval meeting on Wednesday night, so buyers aren't waiting a week to hear what what the acceptance was from council. So we did bid out a 2017 Dodge Charger. The highest bid came in at $91.55. And our 2015 Ford Explorer, the high bid came in at $3,200. So I will say I was actually very happy by these numbers. I was not anticipating being able to get any more between $9,000 and $10,000. So we're over $2,000 from that. So I would ask council's approval to accept these offers, and I'll reach out to the highest bidders and facilitate this.
Do we need to amend the motion or this request to accommodate those 2 numbers, or how would we handle that?
Specifying Wednesday would be to approve those specific amounts to those specific bidders.
Okay. So we'll hold that off the consent agenda for right now and have the final numbers on Wednesday. Is
I can forward you the reports for
Yeah.
the Wednesday meeting.
that all right? Any other discussion from council? We will not put that in the consent agenda for Wednesday. Next item is item B, consider authorization to apply for an accreditation grant for the new police station.
So this is a what's called a fiscal year CPD accreditation supporting law enforcement agencies seeking accreditation. It's a grant opportunity through the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services. It's a grant that's available to help fund assisting our police departments who are seeking accreditation. This is a non-matching grant, which we anticipate submitting a budget of approximately $136,000 for costs associated with accreditation and achieving accreditation. We're working with our consultants from GMS on the grant submission, which is due on the Just Grants platform on May 28th of this month. And we're asking council to approve the grant.
Where does that 136 come from, Chief?
It's a mixture of employee compensation for those that are going to be working with the grant consultants. We'll actually be getting a consultant that specializes in accreditation to walk us through the process from A to Z. There's funding for that consultant. There's funding for internal staff to actually work with them for a dedicated amount of hours per week. There's funding for part of our evidence improvements that'll need to be done as far as accreditation, and then some other working materials, laptop for the accreditation manager, et cetera.
Thank you. Any council discussion, question? Mayor?
Accreditation, I think, is critically important to the future of the police department. It's something the chief has made a priority since he has become chief, and it really tightens up policies, procedures. It modernizes the department, and it's money really well spent. It really takes years of old policies and procedures and really brings them and updates them. But it's a long year to get there, and there's a lot of administrative detail, and you can't really do it with existing staff. You're gonna have to have some dedicated time because it's not something you do in between. It really becomes kind of a full-time job during that period.
Any public questions specifically related to accreditation? Any objection to any council member moving this to the consent agenda? Yeah, the consent agenda Wednesday. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And next item is consider community project funding requests for 2025 related to Representative Houlihan's office for de-escalation initiative funding for $87,000.
So this was I like to call it a last minute opportunity that arrived on my email inbox Thursday afternoon at about 2:30 with a grant submission due by Monday evening on the 29th of April. So what we wanted to do, we took the opportunity as an opportunity to really rebolster our de-escalation initiative funding, where we would update our current de-escalation equipment, which is considered the taser, which is a CEW, a controlled electronic weapon, and also our bowler wrap, which is a non-lethal tool as far as a cable that helps wrap subjects that may be going through different types of crisis to really lessen the amount of force that's needed in any situation. So we took this opportunity to file this grant with Rep. Houlihan's office, and we expect the amount of funding that we're submitting for would be $87,870.72. And that would update all of our equipment for that. And there is no match to this funding opportunity.
Great.
And Council President, we appreciate your quick response with a letter of support for it so we could get it in by the deadline.
No problem, my pleasure. Any council discussion? Mayor?
Just thank you for taking advantage of all the grants that come your way.
Thank you.
Any comment related specifically to this?
I have a question. I'm Kathleen Snyder from Arcola, and my question for Chief is, in the training that we're doing, is there specific training aimed at mental health? It's a real issue in our community.
So the best way I can answer that, Kathleen, is not internally, but we are working externally with our partners, Chester County Mental Health. We're really developing programs that are actually being rolled out as we speak. There's a mental health crisis unit that's actually being initiated and actually just became formal in April, where there'll be responders coming out to the scene where before it wouldn't be till the scene was de-escalated and a subject had been brought back to the police station or transported to the hospital that they would then get involved. So Chester County as a whole is really working on developing a much better system for getting people to respond to the crisis when it's actually taking place. It includes everything: mental health, substance abuse. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any objection to putting this on the consent agenda? Thank you. The next item is item C, consider, the item 11A, consider approval of the personnel manual. Late last year, I guess through the year, the personnel group, along with one of our solicitors, looked at a new social media policy as well as an email, computer, phone usage policy, and just an overview of the entire personnel manual to update it. Kyle or Sam, any updates, anything to add?
The only addition, I mean, just for the general public, this is a kind of your foundational personnel document. It's pretty voluminous, but this update was taking out a lot of unnecessary language and it's really cleaning it up. It does not, or it should not, represent a real significant policy change. I would just add that this is a carry forward from last month, with one change being a clarification on our FMLA policy. So it keeps existing employee rights in that sense, but it cleans it up from a legal perspective.
Any discussion from council? You've all had a chance to review it. Is there any objection to this being a consent item for Wednesday? Thank you. And next item is 11B, consider retroactive approval of the scope of work and contract for the Harriet Tubman Byways Commission's VPP Grant Award. Kyle?
Yeah, similarly to the chief's item, this came to us between meetings here. So thank you to President Norris for signing it, bringing it here retroactive. This goes back about a year. So we approved a grant submission in 2023. We were awarded a grant from the county. This is then approval of the scope of work. It's a partnership with 3 neighbor townships. Our local lead is the Kennett Heritage Center, Lynn Sinclair, and the effort is part of this kind of 250 celebration to highlight some Underground Railroad points of interest in the borough and surrounding area.
Council discussion? Huge thanks to Ms. Sinclair for taking the lead on this. Any comment or question related specifically to this? Any objection to putting this on the consent agenda? It will be then. Thank you. Next is item C, consider resignation of Laura Gonzalez from the Advisory Commission on Latino Affairs. Ellie, any comment?
No, just that we have a member of the commission that wants to resign. Do you have anything to add?
We are certainly grateful for Dr. Gonzalez's participation on ACOLA, I think since the beginning, or certainly for quite some time. We much appreciate that. We will miss her on that commission. Is there any council person who would object to putting this on the consent agenda? Thank you. We've got 2 new members coming in, as was mentioned earlier. We'll take Ms. Natalia Santiago first. Ellie, any comments? Want any comments? Okay. 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 Let me take the first one first. Is there any objection to putting Ms. Santiago on the consent agenda for Wednesday? And Mario Gomez is our second candidate. You'd like to say a couple words, please do.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Amadeo. I'm from Colombia. In this moment, I'm teaching. I'm learning to speak in English. So I am a performing art teacher, and I applied for the ACOLA. So that's it.
Thank you very much for your willingness to serve. Your English is way better than my Spanish is, so thank you for trying there.
I would just add that when ACOLA discussed this, they mentioned this increases the representation from different countries in ACOLA, which they thought was a good thing in general.
Terrific. I will point out Amadio's not living in the borough. We certainly love to encourage borough residents to get involved in these commissions as much as possible. Right. With that, any objection to putting this on the consent agenda? Thank you. Next up is Mr. Thomas, who accepted an offer to join the Infrastructure Committee and joined us at our last meeting. John, is there anything you'd like to say? Okay. Thank you very much. I certainly am happy that he's willing to join and participate and give us a long-term perspective on the borough and how that affects infrastructure. Is there any objection or any question for Mr. Thomas? I'll put this on the consent agenda. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Much appreciated. Consider authorization of advertisement of Chapter 11 parking ordinance updates. Mr. Mayor, Chief?
This is just bringing to council's attention that there's going to be several ordinance updates to discussions that we've already had on parking ordinances that have not been placed on the books yet. So that's all it's going to be, is kind of updating next time that we do an ordinance meeting.
So many of these are already in place, if not all of them. So it's actually just getting it into the books. Okay,
Reds are already in place. We couldn't find them anywhere in our code.
okay,
So we wanted to make sure to codify them, put them in there so that they're all captured.
gotcha. Okay, so it's not a discussion on which intersections and so forth. It's what is right now. Get it?
On reds?
Gotcha.
All, everything that's listed in here is already posted at all of our traffic.
Okay, terrific. Any discussion from council? It's really not a public discussion topic. It's really just memorializing what's in place already. Okay. Any objection to putting this on consent? Thank you very much. And next is the approval of bills in the amount of $826,166.67. Joel, do you want to handle that?
As mentioned, we reviewed these bills at our last finance committee and and are offering them for approval to the council.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Any objections to putting this on consent? Thank you. Let's take a look at the April 1st meeting minutes, the April 1st meeting minutes. And a couple of minor questions, if I may. Any other council questions or edits? Just a couple of follow-up items, mainly for our staff. Chief, there was an issue about broken down vehicles on Harvey Circle. Has that been taken care of, or can you update us?
Yeah, I can update. That was actually addressed the evening of the council meeting on the 1st, and then rectified on the 2nd. There was one vehicle that actually was found to be of an abandoned status. The vehicle was labeled as abandoned through our normal process. Owner given 10 days to remove it, and as of the 13th or the 14th, the vehicle was gone. So that problem has been rectified.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Solicitor, Mike, there was a lot of discussion around the pool agreement with the YMCA. I know Kathleen had issues, a couple other folks had some questions. We delegated the authority to you and Kyle, I believe, based on getting those issues taken care of.
Correct. And Kyle and I and Andy Rongus from our office are continuing to work all those through to make sure they're all accurately.
Okay, okay. And then Ms. D'Antonio had asked about timing for streetlights on State and Broad and Union. Rob, any update on that?
The timing of the street.
Yeah.
Traffic lights or street lights?
Street.
I think it was the timing for the pedestrian crossing, I believe.
Pedestrian crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I finally got the permits from PennDOT, so we can review them, but I have to ask PennDOT if they are willing to change it, and they may have to do a study on it because all the lights are connected now, and they're controlled from King of Prussia.
So I guess just keep us abreast of what's going on. We're certainly trying to get that answered. And then Rob, also while you're there, Mr. Edwards had asked about some trees that were dead or broken or dying on Meredith Street, I believe it was. Are those rectified?
Well, no. The problem we have is that the tree trimmer wants the wires wrapped because they're up against a line, power line, and we did contact Pico, and we're waiting for them to get back with us. Pico will come out and wrap them for us.
I hope your answer from Pico is a lot quicker than I can get answered from Pico, that's for sure. Any other questions on the minutes? Any objection to putting the April 1st minutes on the consent agenda? And then the April 3rd, any council discussion? There was a question, Rob, again, on the NVF fence, whether we could potentially have that pushed back since it was a temporary fence for parking relief.
We did measure it off and the fence is on their property. It actually sits a good bit back. There's only one section that's a very short section that looks like it's up on the road with temporary fencing, but there's also some kind of erosion preventative behind the fence. So I don't think that can be moved, but the majority of the fence is already back on their property. It shows probably about 10 feet from the curb back to the fence.
Okay. Now, I think there was also an issue, Matt, about trying to get one of their parking lots for the folks down there. Any advance, any luck there or not?
Yes, so I spoke with the owners and they are willing to allow the parking lot to be used for public use contingent upon the fact that it's under contract to be sold. They wanted to get an agreement in writing with the buyers that wouldn't change the terms of their agreement if the lot is cleaned up and made accessible for temporary public parking. So they agreed to get back to us as fast as possible, but it was fine with them.
That's great. It's good news for those folks down there, if anyone's here. There we go. Some progress. We'll take it.
I was going to expand on it a little bit at the comments section at the end, but I think that we'll get access to that. They're just going to work something out between those two parties so that they're not, the sale of the property is in an as-is condition. If they're going to clean up that lot and allow access to it, they just want to make sure that it's not putting them in jeopardy of the way the contract's written. But once we get that back, they're very open to allowing it being used.
That's great. Thank you very much for the follow, Matt. Any objection to this moving to the consent agenda? Thank you. With that, we'll take public comments and just ask you to keep your comments to 4 minutes or less, please. Come on up to the microphone or the side of the room if you prefer.
Hi, my name's Jennifer Martin and I live at 419 West Mulberry. And just adding on after we were talking about the NVF parking lot. So we are still experiencing, some hardships from not having parking on the south side of West Mulberry. Everybody on that entire block. And we have gathered a petition and have 33 different signatures from 12 different residences. I've missed maybe one house and 3 apartments that I was not able to make contact with, but everyone is having an issue with that parking disappearing. And it might be like, their boyfriend or their spouse has to leave their car at work because there's no parking in the parking lot, or they have to park on the next road and walk home in the dark. And they're, a young lady and maybe a little bit unsure at night, or hey, like us, we have 2 young children and we have to jockey our cars in and out. And I have to put my son in on this road that now people go faster on. And I know you did a speed. I know you put up the monitors and stuff, but I think maybe that was a little bit premature because I've noticed people are realizing, hey, this is a thoroughfare and I'm going to go faster now. So if I see somebody pulling out of their driveway, like me or my neighbor, instead of stopping for the car to proceed and pull out, they think they have the right, they just blast their horn and they go around, and it's kind of frightening. So, I mean, from going to, maybe having my side mirror taken off to being T-boned, I would prefer my mirror being taken off. So I would like to I would want to see the parking reinstalled on the south side of the street because, things have changed a little bit. So I think if you, put those monitors back up, you might see a little increase in speed, because I notice it. I'm home all day with my kids because I don't work right now. I just stay home with little guys and I see it. So, but anyway, I wanted to submit these petitions to the Borough Council if you would have them. And, I can have more. There's still a few more houses I haven't hit. So.
Love to
Okay.
take them. Thank you. Chief or Rob, yeah, absolutely. Any comment from either of your standpoint?
So ultimately, really, it comes down to council's policy decision on how do you want to actually treat that roadway going forward. All we did was revert it back to the way that it was under the borough ordinance. Obviously, we've had multiple, complaints from residents that live there, whether it be from parking congestion to the speed studies, and whatnot. So really, it's a council decision as to what is your priority going forward for that street, and how does it then affect some of maybe the other complaints that we received as far as the congestion and how it narrows down the roadway. But again, completely a council prerogative.
It sounds like it's an issue for public safety again to consider. I mean, we're trying to use the committee structure really to get things from committees into council with recommendations that are thoughtful. So can we ask that the Public Safety Committee take that up? Okay, and then let's make sure we notice the folks that signed the petition when that public safety meeting is, so they can come and express their opinion as well. Thank you very much, Ms. Martin. John?
I hope you'll be a little patient with me because I got a lot of catching up to do.
4 minutes, please.
First, I want to thank the police department and Longwood Fire. They had to take me to the hospital 3 times last few months. Third time, I was in very serious condition, and they did an excellent job. First time I went, I was on the floor for 15 and a half hours before I was found. So, police department and the fire, of course, the police always show up first, and they were very good. Now I'm going to file a complaint against the police. I bought a brand new lawnmower, brand new, $450, electric, beautiful. Mowed the grass, put it in the shed. It was stolen that night. 2 nights later, now they didn't get the battery because I had it in the house. 2 nights later, they stole an oversized snow blower off my porch. A 3-person snow blower to take it off my porch. And I don't know why you guys don't stop it. If you're having problems, why don't you stop everybody after midnight in a truck or a van and check it? Because somebody had to do it. Cost me a lot of money, and I was just mad.
And there's a couple legal problems with that of just stopping anybody in a truck, but I certainly feel for you on this.
Well, 50 years ago, I bought my house. And there was a whorehouse on the second floor and a drug dealer, and when his 2 sons on the first floor. When I kicked them out, my wife and I, first wife and I moved in, got firebombed. I took care of that myself. I told the police, but I took care of it. If I was a little bit younger, I'd take care of this too. But, and heck with your legal problems, I'd have taken care of it. But, so,
John, you're at 2:15.
what?
You only got a minute and 45.
I'm going to talk as long as I need to here a minute. I missed 5 months worth of 4 minutes. I'm not going to speak for 20 minutes, but I'm going to speak a little bit. Please don't do that to me. I'd fire your realtor. He's doing a lousy job, or you guys are doing a lousy job. I don't know who. Why don't you put, the nice lady over here asked for about mental health. Why don't you get this county to come in and put a 1-room office over here? Ask if they'll come over and put a 1-room office over here where they can have a couple people in here, in this building. Ask if they'll put any 2 or 3 different little 1-room offices and let the county pay for it. But look, that would cover this whole area, from here to Oxford or to the county line. And there's enough people that have problems over here. You can get that done. You got to think of innovative way. I'd still put a museum in here. I'd ask for grant money and I'd put a museum in charge. I mean, a charging museum, not a free museum. Kennett's got enough history, and you could put a museum. I mean, this is terrible to have signs out there like that. And you know, and if you have to, you give somebody a year free rent to get started. I told you that a year ago. If you'd have done it a year ago, it'd have been done. You didn't even make any money anyway. So you give them a year's free rent to get started. They got to pay for utilities and part of their, your expenses, but give them a year free if you have to. Get somebody in here.
You're at your 4 minutes.
Well, I'm going to speak over him here in a minute.
John, out of consideration for everyone here, your time's up. We have to be
Well-
consistent because if we let some people go over, then other people can't go over. That's not fair. But thank you.
We will discuss this later.
Okay. Any other public comment?
Ms. Watson, would you like the microphone?
Give me the mic because people,
Nobody can hear you.
people can't hear you on TV.
You can't hear me?
You're wasting your time.
You can hear me. Yeah. I can't do that. Okay, now the bottom line is this. That parking down there, they're doing that side. You need to put the parking and shouldn't have those conditions in their car. And they were there all those years too, it didn't work. And then the emphasis is this. We have to then the respect. Those houses were built. And they were built like park on the other side. When they were built. 1979. I don't know like those things where you should definitely have no park from Washington down the hill. Because they got a lot. Their park is on the right hand side. But the second precedent, it shouldn't be. And they're all, nobody's about that. On Washington Street, we put streets in there now. That was our part. And you also got the street there to walk out of the best. And you gave them the right of way to the step. You need to start enforcing some. And then, because everybody runs up here, you still got to enforce. You can't do it. You just can't do it. And boy, there's something telling you. On the board government is a housing board. And you need to get it back. I said it for you. I worked with some law. I went everywhere with that. So I can see when the women were coming to the chef. So bold, so brown. I went around and did the job. You need to get that stuff back because nothing changed. But the people actually work with the decisions, permission, and everything else to be posted as nothing with and all that. Not you. Because you're not talking about affordable housing. Of course, that's irrelevant. You're talking about that. You're talking about that all the rest. Make sure they're paying tax for having 31 on their property. With the R1, R2, R3, nobody has the right to build by right. That's why you have the zoning commission. Because they're your judge, jury, and executioner, and your personal use at that. That was very important. Because I see the whole house get built. Never seen the zoning, nothing put on the ground. But they sit down around it. I'm not saying one thing. Anybody who's already got the air, anybody who's already got that second something is illegal and will not be recognized and be protected under what you say it is.
Thank you, Ms. Watson. You kept that to 3.5 minutes.
Oh, I know, I usually do.
Yes.
When I get too much speed, then I get harassed. But you can't handle what I'm saying.
It's okay. Margaret Opplinger, 251 North Broad Street. I am not able to be here on Wednesday night. So I would like to address the accessory, whatever. We live in R1. There's very little R1 in this borough. And where the R1 is, should not have accessory dwellings. That is just causing more density. Our density is higher than West Grove, Oxford. Our density is super high, and now you're putting in more with those apartments. I just think that you need to leave our neighborhoods as they are in R1. I mean, you've already everybody's let the rest of the town go to apartments. We have tons and tons and tons of apartments. And as for affordable housing, I really didn't appreciate the comment, Bob, from your son, and I don't mean to point fingers, but he said that you need to have multi-density units to lower the property values so people can afford to buy in this area, in this town. And I'm sorry, but I have lived here 66 and a half years. I've owned my home for almost 32, and I do not want my equity dropped because of affordable housing. Something else needs to be looked at or done, not take away my equity that I have worked long and hard for. Thank you.
Ms. Saxton?
Clara Saxon, 120 West Linden Street. I run a food cupboard in West Grove, and sometimes I get Kennett people, and Cax knows that. Sometimes people from West Grove go to Cax, and I know that. Largely, that's because we're open in the evenings, Cax closes earlier. It doesn't make a huge difference whether my folks are coming from West Grove or Kennett. Affordable housing is a big problem. And when I hear accessory dwellings and affordable housing in the same sentence, I know somebody doesn't know what they're talking about. Those are very contradictory terms. We need to be real careful with what's going down on a state level, but very definitely on a local level when we're playing around with the accessory dwelling and pretending it's affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Sandy D'Antonio, 220 North Broad. I just want to thank Rob for meeting with my husband and myself last week before. He does a great job. However, I have some concerns about the work that's being done. As a property owner at State and Walnut Streets, they did a lot of work. Obviously, we knew there was going to be work done, but we did not have any dates. Therefore, I pull into my parking lot one day. They've got a porta potty blocking my dumpster. There's vehicles, big equipment in my parking lot. We weren't notified. Not that my parking lot is in excellent shape, but there has been some damage. But I think people should be notified so that they can prepare for that. The other thing is that I understand the state made up the design for the new ramps and whatever. Well, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I know they're not going to take the one away that's on my side. However, there's not going to be a sidewalk in front of our building and on down by Kenview. So there's no handicapped ramp on the other side where there is a sidewalk. So that means they're crossing two streets, and that intersection gets a lot of traffic. So I don't know who can talk to the state, but I don't think somebody should have to cross two busy streets versus one busy street. So that's all I had to say. And I want to thank Rob. Thank you.
Rob, are you prepared to respond to some of those comments?
I did talk to the attorney.
Time's up. Sorry, that's better.
Works for me. I did speak with the attorneys and I told them they did not have to allow them on their property. I never gave them permission to be on that property. They don't have permission to be on private property. So, and I did allow them to stage down at the Y parking lot. So there was really no reason for them to be there.
Any comment in terms of the ramp without the sidewalks and that issue?
I understand what she's saying. Everything went through PennDOT review and PennDOT approved design. It really didn't make much sense to me that they put a ramp on her side when they could have just gone across from Land Rover, because they did put one over at Land Rover too. So, Bob, I can't really answer it. There is no sidewalk on her side. Yeah, that was actually added because I asked them to add it. It was not supposed to be part of the project, but because of the red clay development, I asked them to put a ramp over there.
Timing of the whole project, when do you think it'll be wrapping up?
They're moving, the concrete crew was out today. So they should be doing the cleanup and restoring yards and patching asphalt now. I know they are starting to put the sharrow marks on the road and the crosswalks.
Very nice. The ones that I think brick, concrete look very nice.
That's a different project.
No, I understand.
So Mishakana Ice Cream will be open soon? I mean, they're open, but they're front.
Yeah, we have to allow 7 days
Cured?
for it to cure. At 7 days, you're about 75% cured.
Okay.
So, 75% strength. So that's why they do it and then it sits for a week. So I think it was poured on Thursday or Friday. So I'm hoping that they move it by the weekend.
One more question.
Yep.
Apartments down on Mill. When can we get the rest of our road back?
I actually have to dig up that road. There.
Well, yeah.
Because,
Mess.
yeah, well, there's a leak. Somewhere they must have hit a water line and just bent it over because we have the main shut off down near the intersection. But where that sinkhole was forming,
That on state?
there was water coming up. So once we shut down and isolated it, it stopped. So we know that it's water leak. So the only thing I can think of is that they dug through service line, an old service line, because there were old service lines everywhere, and probably just pinched it over and kept rolling. So now it's our issue.
But then will they be gone?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
They were,
Thankfully, don't drive that part of State Street, but I'm on Mill and you look up the road and you're like,
it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten on them about actually patching, and sometimes the patching makes it even worse. What it needs to be done is everything dug out, put the base in, and just give us our wear coat.
and there's one little pothole at the end of Sickle and Union.
Is it on Sickle or is it on Union?
It's it's West Sickle, right in the middle of.
They just filled out.
Did they fill it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Turns down.
Okay. Yeah, I know there was a complaint about that, and okay. And it was on the schedule. You're welcome.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks.
help@kennettsq.org. Great vehicle. If you have any issue, there's a pothole, there's a tree, there's a this, or that. How do we take care of this? They go to Sunny clears them to the department manager and follows up. It's a great vehicle to get answers on anything or action. Sorry.
Todd Opplinger, 251 North Broad Street. Yes, to the help@kennettsquare.com. They got right back with me and my question was answered within 24 hours. I thought that was phenomenal. I'm actually come up here tonight just to, I want to recognize the Public Works Department and Rob. This large trash dumpster weekend, this last weekend, there were people there that was so organized. They were there to help me unload and separate everything with me. They did a fantastic job and I really appreciate it. And I just hope they get the recognition for it. Just as a side, and even on the agenda, it says Wednesday night is a voting session. And I've noticed you guys start putting these workshops on Wednesday as well. Well, if you walk into the post office or you walk around town, you talk to somebody, they say, oh, there's a big meeting, they're going to have a workshop on this or that. And they all think it's on Monday. So then the word gets out that, oh, no, it's really on Wednesday. And so there were a lot more people, I think, that were going to come tonight that probably got corrected. But you're doing a great job getting the things out there, but I'm just wondering, are the workshops on the right meeting or on the right night? You know, when it's something's going to be extremely important where it seems like there's a lot of people that are interested. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. You want to respond, Kyle? Any thoughts?
Yeah, we'll try to do a better job of explaining. I think there was an article talking about it that mentioned Monday, so that could have thrown some people off. But we'll generally try to clarify it.
Okay, and we can certainly, our communications are phenomenal to make sure those messages are cleared up. And how about it for our Public Works Director and his staff? They are giant. Totally agree. Thanks for that very kind comment. Any other public comments? If you have 47 seconds. No, I'm kidding.
The curb on my property, I forgot to mention this, is high, and that part is on my private property. If anybody gets hurt, who is liable for that? Because I didn't want it there.
Your husband, I think, not you, but your husband, I think is probably. Rob, I mean, first.
What you talked about is curb cheek wall behind because of the elevation. It is actually in the right of way. It's right on the edge of the right of way.
But if they fall over that edge.
Well, I would have to address that to like Rob.
Curbs, just like sidewalks, are the primary responsibility of the homeowner to maintain, not necessarily Sandy saying design, but to maintain, and the municipality is secondarily liable.
Well, I don't want it there, because before it was flat, and now it's high, and if somebody wheelchair tips over, or somebody's on a chain, they're gonna get hurt on my property, and I do have an issue with that. And I know I'm over 4 minutes, but this is a question.
Just make sure you hear me. I'm saying maintain. If you didn't design it, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't speak to the defense you have, but I wouldn't expect that you would be liable for it, for the design of it. But the maintenance, like maintenance of the sidewalk, is the primary responsibility of the home.
One at a time, please. One at a time. With that, yep, please come on up. Public, hold on, one at a time, please, ma'am.
Jane Fiore, 221 East South Street. I have just the opposite problem. They did the new water lines last summer on the street there, and they did an excellent job. But the high school got their regulated curb back, but mine on our side is almost flush with the road. And that curve there is horrible because there's maniacs how they drive, and they don't realize the bend that curve's got. And usually they're up on the sidewalk. They're knocking over the trash cans. You can't do yard work because you don't know if a car's coming, you got to get up on the bank. I don't know why they didn't put our curb back to the regulated height when that work was done. And I know it's a state road, but, and sometimes the borough, you know, you go up against whatever, but the high school side looks great. So I don't know how that can be handled.
any place that we, did the work, if we had to go across the curb and the curb had to be replaced, they had to put it in kind because you can't have a piece that's sticking up 6 to 8 inches and then going 4 feet, and then it goes back down to what's there. The curb is actually the responsibility of the homeowner. So if the curb is not, within the 6-inch clearance, it actually comes back to the homeowner to have that replaced. We were only putting in con.
Why would it be put back the way it was when after the work was completed?
And so are you telling me that they did not put a curb in?
That-
Or are they,
No,
are you
the
telling me that
curb,
they matched?
the curb is just the original curb, but the blacktop came up so high, I have about 1.5 inches. And the regulated, I'm thinking a curb is
6 inches.
6 inches.
Yeah, 6 inches.
So I'm just concerned, I mean, I'm on the other street, I don't care, but that bend there, people don't realize, it doesn't look bad, but when they come down there 60 miles an hour, you know, I'm on the phone.
Rob, can Steve take a look at that, Rob?
Yeah, but we don't have control over it.
Right.
But if it was done incorrectly, we could at least advocate for them, no?
Yeah, we can take a look at it.
Yeah.
But it sounds like they matched it in top. If they match the asphalt top too, then that's all I can ask. The rest of it, the state would have to, actually come through the proper. We can take a look at it.
Thank you very much for your comments and respecting our requests. Are there any comments, Mr. Mayor?
I just, for those that didn't know or see, the Mushroom Festival had their annual grant evening where they gave out money, and this year Gina and the Mushroom Festival gave out over $100,000 from last year's Mushroom Festival. So that one weekend event makes a huge annual, year-long impact by all the, I think, were there 72, 73? How many grant recipients? 43 grant recipients that received funds. So it was it was a nice night to celebrate them, but it's a lot of money to give back, it's a lot of work for the Mushroom Festival, but a one weekend of inconvenience for some people who don't enjoy it. But for those that do enjoy it, it makes a huge impact.
It's great.
So if you ever want to know what your wristband charge goes towards, that's it. So if you paid for your wristbands, that's where the money's going.
Mr. Manager?
Just a thank you to our Swiss Army knife, Sonny, for filling in tonight. Did a good job.
Any council comments? I have just a couple brief ones. One is I think a number of council have discussed here and there about taking the fence down around this complex. Some of us think it's not the most sightly fence in the world, and especially as we use it to have people coming from different corners down Union Street, would be something some of us would love to see the borough consider doing, and let us know if that's possible or how we would do that or not. I know we've got issues with a lot of events using the space, and the fence is really handy. Just love to consider that, or at least take a look at that.
I'll catch up with our legal to talk about what the implications are, as well as our events teams.
No question.
Can I add a suggestion to that? Potentially, we could just have gates that the public can access that would maintain the fence, but have a way that people could get in on South and on Union.
We did open the gate one.
Yes, yeah, that was great to have it open for the farmer's market.
Yeah, that's a great intermediary step. Also, thanks very much to Lexi, who developed a sidewalk recommendation letter to us right after the last meeting. Council and Mr. Mayor, if you haven't seen or responded to that, please do. Love to get Lexi onto the June agenda to have some follow-up quickly on that. Thank you very much. Wednesday evening, it's 7 o'clock. We're going to have our working session, our workshop, see, screwed up again, where we consider or pass the consent items and then any other open items to discuss it and hopefully get those passed or resolved. But we will take a look at that and whether that's needed or confusing or not. Also, the priority of the workshop is really to take a look at the strategic planning and priority setting exercise that Kyle and Sunny took. Any resident in town was invited to come to that about 2 months ago, I guess, a month and a half ago now. So all of that input put along with the nonprofits and the shopkeepers and stores and restaurants and so forth. And then the council had a third session with them. That's all going to be gelled together to come back with the recommendations that come out of that. So the theme of Wednesday is really taking a look at what the next iteration of the borough looks like based on those recommendations and what priorities council wants to set and direct or ask the staff to undertake, as we have in the past. With that, we've asked Chester County Commissioner, Chair of the Commissioners, Josh Maxwell, to join us as well. He's going to talk for 15 minutes or so to share the county's priorities and hopefully how they interweave with the borough's priorities and how we can be working together with each other collaboratively towards the same ends. And then we will have the discussion as a follow-up to our March meeting around ADUs based on the Planning Commission. So if you're available, please come out. If not, take a look at it on Zoom, and we will take any questions on Zoom as well. So with that, unless there's any other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Hopefully see you Wednesday.